Welcome to the Speak by Design podcast, where we study personal style, message structure, and message strategy so you can become a consistently compelling force. Let's dig in. This lesson is about the skill of balancing power dynamics. Sometimes you're going to need to give away more power to team members or peers or even your leader, and other times you need to take power back. And it will be different in every relationship. So you can't just think, what do I need to give to my whole team? Because some people are taking more power naturally and some don't want to take the power. So you've got everybody's different. So think of this as a way to balance it one to one, not one to many. And often we touch upon this topic when people mention that they see politics playing out at work. So by politics, I mean if you have seen or believe that any of this is going on. And it's things like believing that you're not allowed to speak up in meetings or feeling excluded from meetings. And that might not just be a feeling. Maybe it actually has happened where you were not invited to an important meeting. It can be feeling like you're set up to fail, where you've been given a big task, but no support or coaching, and the person doesn't have time to help you. And that could be your leader or a peer or a team member. And feeling disliked for no rational reason. And being given the worst tasks, which could be menial tasks or the hardest tasks, the impossible tasks. And not being able to make a decision, feeling like you have to check in and you can only take small steps and not big steps. And not feeling visible in the organization, not being allowed to talk to other leaders, and not feeling like you have a good handle of the big picture, the bigger picture that you need to have in order to be aligned and operating in the right way. It could also be not having access to technology systems. So if you need to have a certain amount of threshold to have visibility into certain reports, but you're not allowed to have visibility into those reports, that can also feel political at times. All right, but ask yourself, what does feel political? And see if you have evidence for it, because sometimes you do, but sometimes you don't. And maybe somebody didn't invite you to one meeting, but that was only that meeting with those people on that topic. It could have been a human error, or maybe there was a good reason. Often we jump to believing that there's a bigger agenda against us, and that doesn't help us show up well. And that is not because of the other person. That is because of the way we are looking at the situation. So mindset does play into power dynamics. There are 7 sources of power, and these are what make up the power dynamics we're going to go into. So assess for yourself between you and your direct supervisor who has the power across these 7 aspects. The first is authority. Who has more authority? The second is who has more expertise. The third is who has more charisma or likability. The fourth is who has the ability to give greater rewards. And who, the fifth one, is who has greater ability to give punishments. The sixth source of power is who has better knowledge of the systems. And systems are technical systems as well as people systems. And the seventh is who has better access to the strategic goals. Imagine now that between you and your boss has all 7 sources of power over you. Are you going to enjoy a role where you have no authority, a feeling, maybe not no authority, but less authority than your boss, less expertise than your boss, less charisma, less ability to reward and punish, and less understanding of the systems and the goals. You're going to feel very menial and stifled if that is the situation. So, if that is your situation, look across those 7 power dynamics and decide, what do you need to develop in yourself? Because maybe you need better knowledge of the goals. Maybe you need better skills with the systems. Maybe you need to go expand your network of people to feel like you understand the people systems and channels of how to influence and get work accomplished. Maybe you do need to work on your charisma. You need to work on your charm and your ability to be interesting and creative and command a room. Maybe you do need to develop more expertise. Maybe you do need to go give rewards and punishments. So, we'll talk about what each of these mean, because there's not just one way to reward. I know that when you hear the word reward, most of us think compensation, but you can also reward through praise and recognition and gifts of your time and gifts of your energy and your appreciation. So there's so many ways to reward that are not monetary. And for punishments, punishment sounds so negative, but that's when you give constructive feedback, when you tell someone that their performance was not up to a standard, or when you say they don't have the capabilities to work on something, or you're pulling a project back because they need to finish their other priorities before you give them more. Those can feel like types of punishments. Of course, other ways of punishing are not promoting someone, which may or may not be part of your responsibilities. Let's go through each of the sources of power and talk about how to balance them. So, for authority, with a direct report, one way you could give them more authority would be to give them a budget with a problem to solve and give them a number of hours, maybe a person or two to help, maybe even a dollar amount investment. Give them more choices or options when you're suggesting a recommendation. Share those opinions you have with them privately versus with the group so that they can feel like the authority in front of the group. And be more consultative with this direct report to help elevate their authority. Now, if you're trying to give more authority to your leader, you might need to encourage them more. Maybe that person is demotivated. Your leader could be demotivated on something and needs to receive a pep talk. Maybe by your asking for their approval or asking them to make a decision, that's empowering enough to help remind them of the authority that they have. Now, if you want to take charge and develop your own authority, get your opinion out first. In a meeting, be eager to share your recommendation. Offer a clear decision. Provide more descriptions and answers versus asking people for their descriptions and their recommendations. Show immediate action after you make a decision, and be more assertive in your message structure, giving the answer first rather than telling stories. That will help you sound like an authority figure. When it comes to expertise, the second one, with a direct report, if you want to develop their expertise and help them feel more powerful when it comes to expertise, give them credit, send them to a training, ask them to teach something to others, ask them to create a video, a knowledge video, a learning video. Ask that direct report for what they think the course of action should be. If you want your leader to develop more expertise, let's suppose you're a technical expert and your leader has none of this technical expertise, teach your leader privately. Simplify your messages. Make your updates and your informative messages more fun for your leader to listen to. Grab their attention. You will grow so much by learning how to make your technical concepts interesting to your leader. And you can grow your own expertise as well by studying, by going and having a firsthand experience outside of what is normal for you, and ask for those experiences. Make a case for new training, for you to attend a new training. Go out and interview people who already have this expertise so you can borrow their perceptions and their knowledge. I call it borrowing their knowledge, but gaining their knowledge as well. The third source of power is charisma. Now, charisma is probably the most mysterious to all of us because it is how can you single handedly control how likable you are, because it's in the other person's head, whether they find you charming or not. But here's some things you could do to help your direct report develop more charisma. Have them speak up more in meetings. Ask them for their opinions more in front of the group. Introduce them to the people you know in the organization. Smile at them more. Show more compassion toward them when you disagree with them. Spend time with them outside of work. And if you want your leader to develop more charisma, because sometimes our leaders are not expanding their own internal networks the way you need them to, is with appreciation, invite them to attend more cross-functional events with you. Shine a light on your leader when you're speaking to other cross-functional groups. Talk about them and praise them for their achievements, almost as though you are marketing their achievements to the rest of the organization. When you are in meetings with your leader, smile appreciatively at them while they're speaking, because that shows your affiliation with your leader and how much you respect your leader. If you're working on growing your own charisma, go focus on the personal relationship side of your relationships at work. Share more about who you are outside of work. Have more fun in your meetings with these people. Bring in an interesting quote, an anecdote that relates to the topic. Be a better listener as well. Balance the conversation. If they tell something personal about themselves, you balance that with something personal about you. And go to more meetings. Be more visible. Look open to meeting new people. All right, the fourth source of power is rewards. And rewards can be things like gifts, time, acts of service, praise, compassion. I mean, it's really like the love languages of work, isn't it? So, a gift to a direct report or leader might be going to lunch and sending them to a training, books as well, giving people knowledge. For time, it's spending time with them in and outside of work and helping with deliverables, introducing them to other people, recognizing their efforts and achievements and skills, and showing more compassion through your body language and also your vocal tone. We can tell by your tone of voice. When I talk to someone I care about or that I'm impressed with, it shows in my voice. I'm genuinely excited to celebrate their achievements. Put that into your vocal tone. And then look for ways to be more creative in giving shout outs and awards and recognition to this direct report, or helping your leader put together an interesting gathering for which they could be a leader of or a center focus of, letting them get all the credit. So being generous with credit, extending invitations so that you're helping expand the network of your direct report and your leader, and maybe even your own network. Now, for punishments, which sounds so negative, like let's suppose you're often the bad cop on the team, and your direct report is always playing good cop, and you want your direct report to help say no, that it can't always just be you. So help them say no when appropriate. Help them set boundaries and uphold the standards of the team. Teach them and even practice with them how to accelerate timelines with team members. Maybe they need some role playing practice with you. Maybe they need you to draft the email that they will send, and help them reprioritize what they're working on. Help them push back on others appropriately. Help them not misuse their opportunities, these powers, because punishing it, you can always go too far with that and then demotivate people. So that's when you're working with a direct report and helping them put out more punishments, because punishments is a source of power. To the leader, if you're trying to help your leader become more of a bad cop, help them say no, help them hold firm to the standards and hold people accountable, and help them be fair. If they've been hard on one person about a standard but not on another, that's not fair. Help them see that that's not fair and encourage them to be consistent. Maybe you need to work on strengthening your ability to deliver punishments. And in that regard, it's helpful if you work on elevating your own standards of quality and raise your own standards around turnaround time. Require more clarity and simplicity from people. Expect action and responsiveness, and speak up when you do not see it. All right, now all 5 of those sources of power are sources for the individual. You yourself can develop these personal qualities around charisma. You can strengthen your authority and expertise. You can be more effusive in rewards and punishments. These latter 2 are more institutional because it's how well you know the company. So the latter 2 are systems and goals. So thinking about systems, that's your knowledge of the people systems, the processes, and the technology in your company. So with a direct report who's newer to the organization, they will lack the power of systems. They just don't have this as a source of power because they don't know the systems. They don't know the people, the processes, or the technology. So teach them those. Give them exposure to those. Expand access and permissions. Ask them to simplify processes or document a process as a way of learning it. Give them access to more senior leaders and clients instead of telling them to stay out of a meeting, or, oh, they don't need to attend a meeting. Invite them to more meetings so they have exposure to these people systems. And so, like, imagine you're in operations, but you're doing a lot with the legal team. Make sure that you're not the only one who knows the legal team. Give them access to the important people they need to know in the legal team. And then if you're trying to improve your leaders' knowledge around people, processes, and technology, give them more education. Maybe they need to see a demo of how to use the system. Maybe they need a hands-on experience. Maybe they need help in developing people followers. And you might be the first follower, but go help them find other followers. And if you're working on your own knowledge systems, like the systems, maybe you want to meet more people, you want to learn the technical systems better, go after that. Simplify processes, go work on documenting them, teaching other people processes too along the way, and teaching others what you know. That's how you develop the power of systems. And the last source of power is your knowledge of the strategic goals of the organization. Now, some of you might actually be the leaders who set these goals, so then you certainly have the power. But let's suppose you want your direct report to start setting up some goals too. You could ask them to set new quarterly and annual goals. And quarterly goals especially are helpful. Offering support to help them reach their goals and asking them, where do they need your support? But let's suppose your leader is not great at setting strategic goals for the team. You could ask for a meeting where the leader would announce the new goals, or even offer some suggestions for ideas of new goals because the old goals need to be refreshed. And once you get those goals, start sharing them with other cross functional teams so that you can shine a light on your leader's objectives and help your leader achieve these goals. Now, you yourself, if you do know the strategic objectives and the goals and you've set them, go speak them to people. Work on sharing them with your team so that they can become channels, communication channels for you on these goals. Work on messaging that will excite audiences when they hear these goals and creative ways to express these goals and help other people remember them. All right, so I want to recap what we covered today. We covered 7 sources of power. When you feel like the landscape has gotten political, look at these 7 elements, and they are levers where you can either give more power, take more power, or develop the power yourself. And many times there are things you could be doing without anyone else's approval to fix the situation. All is not lost. When a relationship with your leader, direct report, or peer feels strange, examine these sources of power to figure out how you could improve the balance. And if you have a good relationship with these people, you can even openly teach them the 7 sources of power and talk about them. All right, that concludes our session on the 7 sources of power. It is something to understand and use to improve your relationships. All right, take care, everybody. Have a great day. If you are enjoying all of these lessons, but now you're hungering to turn all of this into skills and habits that make this work intuitive and natural so that you don't have to think about it, then you want to join Speak by Design University. That's our coaching program that gives you private coaching, group coaching with me, group training, self-paced learning, as well as exceptional networking with other people like you. This program is for managers and above, people whose careers are on fire and they're looking to hit their next level, and they want to do that sooner rather than later. Check it out at speakbydesign.com/join. That's speakbydesign.com/join, and you can start with us at the 1st of next month. We hope to see you there.